with people without uniforms?
Well, I think it's clear we are at war with these terrorist groups and what they represent. It's a different kind of war, and we need to be smart about how we wage it and win it. So I think we have to look at all possible approaches to doing just that.
Yeah, I mean, John, we've got, of course, just a minute left, but both of them talking about war, but in very different terms, very different, not surprisingly, tone, which these candidates do.
And it's one of the defining questions in their campaign. We know people think the country is off on the wrong track economically. When things like Dallas, when things like this attack in Nice, France happen, it reinforces the belief that what we have isn't working. We need something different. That benefits the challenger. Hillary Clinton is trying to make the case you need to be calm and measured in these situations. And can you imagine Donald Trump in the Situation Room on a horrible day like this? She wants to say he's too risky. Trump wants to say what we have isn't working. We need something very different.
And see his politics,
Ted, both sides using it. Dana, we got to run. I'm so sorry.
No problem.
Dana Bash, John King, thanks so much for being with us. We do have a programming note. John King will host a special Inside Politics this Sunday, live from Cleveland. What's in Cleveland? The Republican National Convention. We're all going. That's Sunday at noon, and John and us, we'll be there all week.
Thanks so much for joining us at this hour.
Legal View with Ashley Banfield starts now.
Hello, everyone. I'm Ashley Banfield, and welcome to our viewers here in the United States and around the world. That world now knows the name of the 31-year-old Frenchman who plowed through a dense crowd on a seafront promenade last night in Nice, France. But the world is at a loss to understand why and to stop these attacks that are in no way exclusive to France, but have taken such a toll there since the Charlie Hebdo assault a year and a half ago. This time the weapon was a large commercial truck. The witnesses and some authorities also say the driver was firing gunshots as he mowed down revelers who had just watched a fireworks display on Bastille Day, the French national holiday. 84 people were killed, and last hour, the investigating prosecutor said 52 others have been critically hurt. We know some of the dead and injured are children. The rampage was stopped more than a mile from where it began, when police shot that driver to death. He's now been identified as Mohamed Boual, a citizen of France, a resident of Nice, and of Tunisian descent. Authorities have spent the day at Boual's apartment, and his ex-wife is now being held and questioned. I want to stop here and bring in my CNN colleagues Clarissa Ward and Nick Robertson, both of them reporting live. And Nick, you're out in front of this murderer's actual home. Are they finding any evidence that might lead to a motive for this?
Well, what the police have said so far is the prosecutor gave us details of the raid here a little earlier today. He said that they'd taken away telephone and IT equipment. They also say that, that they recovered a cell phone from the cab where he was shot dead by the police as they brought his murderous rampage in that vehicle to a standstill. What we've been able to see here and learn here indeed today by going into the apartment, I've been able to look in through the broken door and see inside the apartment that this murderer came from. You can see the drawers have been pulled out. There are things lying around on the floor. There appears to be a sort of an LCD computer-type screen in there, but the police left the apartment that way after they finished searching it. It looks as if it's had a very rough and ready search there. We've also spoken to neighbors here, and the neighbor here described him as being, she said he was very odd. He would had a stare. He had a fixed look about him. He wouldn't say hello. He would only nod at her. She said she used to see him about 4 times a day. He would come and go at different times of the day. She used to see him with a bicycle, coming in and out of the apartment with a bicycle. And what we've heard from the prosecutor today is that the surveillance camera footage picked up picked up Mohammed Bouel approaching the 18-ton refrigerated truck that he drove into the crowds at about 8:30 in the evening yesterday evening. And then later the police say that the only things, apart from a weapon and several fake weapons found in the vehicle, were a bicycle. It appears that he rode to this truck late yesterday evening, put his bike in the back of the truck, pondered for a couple of hours, and then began the attack. The prosecutor says at this time, of all those people that are injured, a significant number, 25 of those 52 injured, 25 are still in comas. Still, their situation's very, very precarious, Ashley.
And Nick, just quickly, the prosecutor and others alluding to the idea that there's no intelligence to suggest that he belonged to any mosque, that he was on the radar of any intelligence service. So are we to think at this time that this is any kind of a group-affiliated terror, or that this is just a sick mass murderer?
Well, there were some other details as well from the prosecutor, because he said that he'd been given a suspended sentence for an activity very early this year, been given a 6-month suspended prison sentence in May rather, for being armed and behaving in a violent way. So that is an indicator of irrational and dangerous behavior that had brought him into contact with the police. However, these were just criminal charges, as the prosecutor said. They weren't following him. The counterterrorism authorities weren't following him. They hadn't opened what's known as a fiche S in France, which is an intelligence document where they will monitor you. The information they gather about you goes into this document, if you will. So in terms of sort of terrorism related to radical Islam, he wasn't on their radar. He was only on their radar for being violent with a weapon, enough to get a 6-month suspended sentence. And at this time, the police will undoubtedly be looking back at the details on that case to see what else, if anything, they should have seen, might have missed. Ashley?
Nick, stand by if you will, please. I want to go over to Clarissa, who is standing by live on what just, within 24 hours was a scene of celebration. The promenade in Nice, now a site of mass carnage. Just take me to the aftermath, the processing of this crime scene, Clarissa.
Well, you wouldn't know it, Ashley, but this is one of the most lovely sights that the spectacular city of Nice has to offer. The Promenade des Anglais is a very popular tourist destination. It looks out on the sparkling, beautiful Mediterranean Sea. And the area behind me now, which is all closed off as police essentially comb that massive crime scene, more than a mile long, for clues as to how exactly this happened. But last night, this area would have been filled with throngs of thousands of people gathering, both French residents, also tourists from all over the world, gathering here to witness the fireworks display for Bastille Day. Bastille Day, of course, being France's Independence Day. And it was against that backdrop and that symbolic event that the attacker took this 18-ton refrigerated truck, as you heard from Nick, and began mowing down people as he drove down the promenade. And we actually heard from some witnesses, they were describing that initially they thought there was some kind of an accident, that he had lost control of the vehicle. And it was only after they saw that he was accelerating and zigzagging into the crowds that they realized that this was a major attack. What's interesting, Ashley, is that a short time ago, a couple of hours ago, the motorcade of France's president, Francois Hollande, passed through here, and it was very telling to see the reaction of the crowd. I would say it's a very different vibe from what we saw in Paris, where there was shock, where there was solemnity, where there was silence, where there was solidarity. Today, we saw people actually shouting at the president's motorcade, calling him a murderer even, calling him things that we can't say on television. And when I went and had a discussion, there were some very acrimonious, heated debates going on among people about the issue of security in France, whether there's enough of it, and whether the government has done enough to protect its own people, Ashley.
Well, it's been a hell of an 18 months for France, without question. Clarissa Ward, thank you for your live reporting. Nick Robertson doing an excellent job getting those inside images, Nick, of that apartment. Thank you for that. The survivors say that by the time anyone knew what was even happening last night, it was just too